When they walked into class on the first day, they were presented with a crime scene. What we did was we set up a TV stand in the hallway, and then in the closet we said that audiovisual equipment had been stolen, and the night before there had been a large rainstorm, and so there were muddy prints all over the room, there were some blood splatter, the classroom was overturned, and there were footprints outside. And so instead of me giving a lecture, I gave them the yellow cards, and they started mapping the classroom, mapping the hallway, and placing evidence cards, and started with measuring and things like that. They were given hands-on things, and then we talked about how we were going to apply it and all of that kind of stuff. So they instantly were sort of grabbed, and then we started doing the measurement and the math and the things like that, the science as well. They walked into the classroom and they instantly came up with an idea of what the crime was, who did this. We had some boys that came in and looked at the mud prints on the shoes and said, he or she was wearing Nikes. And they knew that from the tread pattern. They instantly created something in their head. They had a model, and then they start to explain it, and then we give the tools after they've got some experience with it, of fitting it in with science and math and things like that. It's been really a great way to keep them engaged but also learning.
We had this homemade black powder that reveals the fingerprints, and we had the fingerprint brushes. We had I guess pretty clear fingerprints, and then we put it on tape and we stuck the tape onto the card so that we could see it more clear. We had to collect the swirls and arches and pretty much just the fingerprints. We had to do that on our own.
We went outside, we had the water up in the cup, and we poured the plaster of Paris up in the cup, then store it up and stuff, get the chunks out of it. Then we poured in the footprint on the footprint and stuff. Then we put rocks and sticks up in there to help so it won't break that easily. Then after that we come out, get it. Then after that we brushed all the dirt off, a little bit of the dirt. Then we just looked at it, and we could tell that the suspect, his footprint was probably 30 centimeters.
The stride length, it tells you how spaced out your feet are. So when you multiply that by, I think it was 4, you find out how tall they are. It allows you to narrow down the suspects if they were tall, if they were short. If your guy was tall, you shouldn't have 20 short people and 1 tall person.
We found a sample of his shirt. We were sampling these samples and see if we could find the right match to his shirt. You look under a microscope and see if you can match up the textures and all the features of each sample and see if you can match it to the right sample that you got from the victim's shirt. We dyed all these fabrics and see would it change with the color that we make. For example, number 2 fabric sample, it turned pink, and then we did a burn test and see which one catch on fire the most. Natural, they come from plants, and synthetic comes from man-made. So ours was 100% cotton, so it comes from plants.
Let's say there's a piece of hair, like we found in the locker, in the cotton stretch t-shirt. If we combine those two together, then we would somewhat narrow it down to that person. Basically, there are different types of hair and fibers. There's the medulla, which is the core. The cortex is the color portion, where the color comes from. The cuticle is made up of overlapping scales. It's kind of fun to do genetics when you're only going into 8th grade, and genetics like a high school to college thing.
We're trying to keep them engaged. We've tried to balance notes with hands-on activities, with online components and things like that, trying to make it really fun and engaging. The kids don't realize they're doing math and science, and so when they measured their footprints, and then we took all of their own feet prints and their own heights and we graphed them, they were actually spot on with the length of the foot for our suspect and actually the height of the suspect. So they were actually really accurate, and they've done a really good job. I'm really proud of all of my students.